Michael, let's start where we were last year. You and I actually talked about this. There was a lot of fanfare because we had Bezos, Warren Buffett,
right,
and to some extent JP Morgan going into the managed care space saying they were going to disintermediate health insurers, come in. A lot of fanfare, as I say. Since then, not much at all. What's happened? Have they done anything?
Well, you never know what's happening behind the scenes. But if you look at their total employee population, there's not enough to build a whole lot around. But they also need a lot of systems capabilities, the kinds of things we do for companies, where you put in the systems, the medical management, that type of thing. We haven't heard anything about that. I still appreciate what they did, because they're what I call constructive disruptors.
Did past tense.
Yes.
Another kind of disruptor you've dealt with pretty admirably recently. You had some activists in your stock wanting you to sell the company to Humana, saying don't do the WellCare deal, which we'll talk about in a minute. And they disappeared. Now, I'm not going to give you credit for seeing them off necessarily, but getting rid of someone like Mr. Loeb and Keith Meister from your stock is something a lot of CEOs would love to know how to do. So what's the trick?
Well, I think they're good investors. And I explained to them everything we did, our board. We looked at all the alternatives before we did the WellCare deal. We even looked at who could pay what for us. I mean, we do complete staff work in the British military parlance. Okay? We looked at all that. So I met with them. I said, look, we've had a 1,250% increase in the price of the stock over the last 10 years. It's one of the fastest growing stocks. I said, it's things that they're concerned about, refreshing the board and things. We're doing it. There's a plan that by the time we do the next annual meeting, there'll be new directors on board. We're going to refresh some. So we're doing the things that they can. We're not a company that's in trouble. And I viewed that as, and I understand it. Everybody tries to do what they can. I viewed them in that instance as an event acquirer of stock. They were looking for an event. If they could get the WellCare, they pick up a quick 20, 30% or whatever, and goodbye. Well, our long-term shareholders, as was proven, 99.8% of them approved the deal.
Still waiting for the regulators to approve the deal, though. Where is that process at? Because obviously that's something you said is going to take some time, middle of 2020, I think was the most recent guidance. Yeah,
and I'll stick with that guidance, even though we're trying to accelerate it every way we can. We're getting great response from the states, and we want to be careful. Every time we get a new state approval, I'm not going to go out and announce it. But we've had 4 or 5 that we talked about at our last Investor Day. So that's going well. We find that justice is very constructive. We're going to be working with them very carefully, giving them what they need. And
what do they need?
Well, they need to understand, one, that this is good for the recipients, the Medicaid recipients. 2, they need to understand it's not any competitive because there's multiple players in the states, and the states can add anybody they want. 3, that we're not going to beat up providers on it. The providers are our product. We protect them. And we're going to work carefully on what we pay them, even though we're bigger. That's not a chance to just try and cut rates. Thirdly, we want to do what's right for the states. Continue to improve outcomes first, good outcomes, at less cost. And we use our systems and things to achieve that. So we're helping them understand that, and I think it's going to go very well. I find them constructive, interested in the right things.
All right, let's try and wrap on this, and this sort of brings it all together. Yes, you have to get approval from Justice. That may become politicized. Obviously, everything around the ACA at the moment is highly political. Where do you see that conversation going, and what outcome would you like to see?
Well, I don't think with Justice we're going to get into the politics of ACA. They tend to be very matter of fact when it comes to that kind of thing. I think the ACA, we have proven, we've grown every year. We've had 80% of the people continue to renew. What I hope the politicians start to think about is moving from politics to policy.